Okay, this is Sports Talk, and normally on our programs we don't have guests because it's so difficult to have any kind of conversation with them, with the commercials that we have to do in only an hour's time. But this is a rare occasion that we get to talk to the National Basketball Association's most valuable player in 1972 and 73, a member of the NBA champion Boston Celtics in 73 and 74, beat Milwaukee in 7 games. Formerly of Florida State University, formerly of Newport Catholic, 6'9", 230 pounds, although he appears to be a lot less than 230 pounds now, in town for just a couple of days, and with Boston playing in the NBA playoffs, we've got to talk to none other than Dave Cowens. Welcome to the program, sir.
Hey, thanks. Pleasure to be here.
It's our pleasure to have you, sir. I have a question for you that has nothing to do with your career, but in watching the NBA playoffs with the Boston Celtics, in a situation where Boston was down 1-3 to the Philadelphia 76ers, I can't remember who it was. One of the Boston players said, hey, listen, I think it was Larry Bird. He says, we're the Boston Celtics, and that carries a lot of weight. Even though we were down 1-3, we were never discouraged. We knew we were going to get it. What is it about the Boston Celtics that has those 13 banners hanging up there in Boston Gardens? What's the magic that other teams don't appear to have?
I think the statement from Larry Bird would indicate, about the only thing you could say, when you're in trouble, as they were down 3-1. They never give up, and I don't think any team would ever give up when they get to that position. What carried the Celtics for so many years was they had a lot of talent, and they have an excellent organization, primarily because of Red Auerbach, who initiated the whole thing some 30 years ago, and been able to sustain, that successful all the winning teams over the years because he's an organizer, because he knows how to read talent, he knows how to, to draft people, and he doesn't draft necessarily just for talent. He drafts for character and for the ability of people to get along with one another and to have stick-to-itiveness and to never say die attitude. I think if you have some guys that only play for stats, and Red Auerbach used to say, look, I don't pay you for statistics. I pay you for the contribution you make, be it as a role player, 6th man, 7th man. If you do a good job in practices and you're the 8th or 10th man on the team, we appreciate that, and we're going to reward you. And I think this carried over, this sort of attitude on his part carried over to the players, and they knew that Red Auerbach cared about them as individuals, and that if they produced, if they, would contribute to the success of the team, that he was going to reward them. And he did this a lot of times at the end of a guy's career, when he no longer was a great physical player, but had the savvy and had, given a lot of years to the Celtics. He kept them around for that extra year or two and paid them top dollar. And so they had something to work on at the end of their career.
Does that carry over to him, to Red Auerbach as a general manager,
sure,
along with being the head coach?
He's been the general manager all along. He was in one of those positions where he called the shots behind closed doors as well as out on the court.
Really? When you were the coach, he was looking over your shoulder saying, Dave, do this, Dave, do that.
Not at all.
He didn't?
Not at all.
He let you do what you wanted?
That's the thing about Red Auerbach. He had been the coach up until, I think, 66 or so, and then Bill Russell took over, and for about 3 years, and then Tom Heinsohn. And Tom Heinsohn was my coach for the vast majority of my career. And Red was the type of guy, and I had no coaching experience, but I had the job. He assigned me the job. And he never once tried to go under me or over me and go to the players. If we were at a practice session and he was there, he would ask me if I could talk to his players on the court and show them some things about various plays and how they should run. I say, you're asking me? Go ahead. We welcome any input.
Yeah. When you took over as the coach of the Boston Celtics, were you running the offense that was taught you by Tom Heinsohn, and was he running the offense that was taught him by Red Auerbach? And therefore the legacy of Red Auerbach and the Boston Celtics carries over from coach, because there is some common bond in all these teams. Russell, Heinsohn, you, Bill Fitch is the first outsider that's coached the Boston Celtics in years.
Well, since it began, really.
Yeah,
since
that's true.
Modern day basketball. Well, sure. Red Auerbach had, they had a 1 series, and each play, has various options, and the 2 and the 3 and the 4 and the 6 play and the 7 play. And Red started those way back when, and under Tommy Heinsohn we ran those plays also. But Tommy was fairly innovative. He did have some plays that Red didn't run, because we didn't have, when I played, a shot blocking center like Bill Russell. So we had to do some things to utilize our skills as a team. And so we had a lot of quickness and strength in the forward position and the center position. So we try to spread people out, make the big guys who didn't have the mobility move around. And, like I'd shoot from the outside and bring the big guy out, and then guys like Silas and Nelson, and Havlicek could work inside.
Yeah, you mentioned those names. It's incredible, too, when you think of the Boston Celtics, the number of players that played for Red Auerbach who turned out to be coaches. At one time or another, or for a long period of time. Sharman, Nelson, Heinsohn, Russell, you,
Bob Cousy
right here. And although it's some question as to whether he was a coach here, he was out there on the floor with the Cincinnati Royals, but he made a lot of people. Never mind. I don't want to make. There are coaches all over the place.
Well, he's a legacy in his own right up in Boston in that area,
Yeah. Is he still wearing the gold cufflinks with 14 on him?
I'm sure he is.
Boy, he was. I played golf with Bob several times. I just wonder if he's still.
He's quite a competitor.
Yes, he is. Very much so. Dave, you only played, 9 years, 10 years?
10 years.
Why'd you get out so quickly?
Well, I decided that, it was time to leave. I played hard for 10 years and felt very satisfied with my career. I had been on a couple of world championship teams, had played with some terrific ball players. One year we only lost 14 games out of 80. And that was only one shy of the record number of, least amount of losses and, most wins in a season. The year before we did that, we won 68-14. The year before, Los Angeles won 69-13, but they had to win 33 in a row in order to do that. They had Chamberlain and Weston, Happy Harrison and Goodrich.
At the beginning of the season, they started 33 in a row. Wasn't that correct?
No, I don't think they went right off the bat, but it was sometime during the season when they put 33 in a row together, which is an awesome statistic, in professional basketball, as much as you travel. And, you were talking before about how physical the game gets. I think the game is physical now, but it's not nearly as mean as it used to be.
Are you serious?
I'm serious. Used to be there were a lot of guys that were out on the floor at various times, and their sole responsibility was to, clobber the guy on the other team. It wasn't so much that they were out there playing a game, but they were out there trying to get somebody's goat, get them aggravated, kick out of the game, start a fight.
And they don't have policemen anymore?
They don't have much of that anymore.
Who was, I would say, Heinsohn had to be one of the great all-time policemen there was in the history of the game.
Lesketoff was even better.
Lesketoff, yes.
Jungle Jim was a guy like that, and on the Celtics, and before him it was Bob Brannan. And just coincidentally, Lesketoff and Bob Brannan both wore number 18. That's the number I wore.
And between you, then Bailey Howe wore it. Didn't he?
Bailey Howe did. He was a physical player also.
Yeah. Interesting. In watching the NBA playoffs, I don't think that's basketball.
Yeah. Well, it is. I think it's, to me, being through playing high school ball and college ball and pros, I would much rather watch a pro game than any of the others.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
But there seemed to be a laxness of the rules, that there seems to be a lot of traveling in the game of professional basketball, and do they allow you that kind of leeway because of the overall size of the players? Are you aware that there are some officials that won't call it that close unless
Every game's different, though, Bob.
Yeah, that's true. You're right.
I mean, you have to be able to read the officials. I don't know if it was ever like that in football, because I don't think there's as much guesswork, or the game doesn't move quite as fast as basketball, But every game, I mean, you can have a referee on Saturday night and he'll let it go, and you'll see him on the next Thursday and he'll call it real tight. You just gotta, and that's one of the adjustments you have to make as a player. You play in all these games in different cities with a lot of different referees in a different environment, and every game is different, it has its own personality, and you have to make the adjustment in your play. I mean, when Philadelphia and Boston were going at it the last game, the 7th game, A lot of people felt like, especially from Philadelphia, that Boston just kind of manhandled the 76ers and fouled them. Dawkins went up to shoot, and they say he got stripped, and guys were bumping, but the refs were calling it, and Boston took over. They played a physical game, and they won the game for them. And Philadelphia were more tentative. They didn't go after it. They weren't the aggressor, and so you have to read that the way the officials call it.
Yeah. And now you are the athletic director at what school?
It's Regis College. It's a liberal arts school in Weston, Massachusetts. 900 undergraduate women.
That is, if you don't mind me saying, a long way from being one of the great scorers in the history of the NBA, one of the great power people in the NBA, to being the athletic director of an all-girls school. I'm not questioning your decision, but there had to have been 2 million opportunities between center for the Boston Celtics and athletic director at St. Regis College.
I'll tell you the reasons. I had run a basketball camp at Regis College for the last 9 years, and knew the facility, knew it's run by the Sisters of St. Joseph, and I knew a lot of the nuns there and the staff and faculty. We had always had a good working relationship. The college is only about 6 miles from my house. It's not a high-pressure job. They have intercollegiate sports there, and basketball, volleyball, softball, and tennis, but that's about it. And they've just made a commitment to expand the sports program by building a $3 million facility, and they need somebody to run the place, and that's why I took the job. It gives me an opportunity to stay in sports without all the pressure of, maybe going someplace like a major college where you get into a lot of recruiting and all of that. I didn't care to do that. I didn't want to travel very much. I wanted to stick around home. So it just seemed to fit in very well.
Is the pressure of professional basketball one of the things, and also being 6'9" and having somewhat red hair, you do attract a great deal of attention, I'm sure. Would you prefer a low-profile life for Dave Cowens now that you've retired from basketball? Or?
I prefer a contrast to what I went through as a professional basketball player, yeah.
Do I not remember at one time in your career you suddenly retiring to become a mechanic?
It was 76, 77 is when I took it. We had just won a championship against Phoenix that year, and I came back the next year, and this early November, I really had enough, and I just left. And probably that's the one thing that I did throughout my career that I regret. And I wasn't really finished playing basketball at that point in time, but I was just really kind of upset with the type of people that we had on the team at that time. I guess I had been spoiled over the previous 6 years playing with guys like Silas and Havlicek and Nelson, Finkel and Kaburski, JoJo White and Cheney and all these guys that were good people. And then a lot of those fellows retired, and we got in some other guys that really weren't dedicated to the game, and it wasn't very enjoyable. And that coupled with the fact that I just was kind of getting bored with the game, and we had gone until June 8th, I think, that year into the playoffs, and then we were right back at it in September, and I think perhaps I just had to get out of the forest to see the trees.
Yeah. Did you play a year with Larry Bird, or did you?
Last year was the first year. He was a rookie.
Yeah, I'm surprised that you didn't hang on with Larry Bird. He seems to be, and maybe I have the wrong impression, he seems to be one of those players that...
Yeah, he's, you call him out of the old mold, that guys that come in and play hard every night, and they have the skills, but they're able to work with people, and the key ingredient to being a top-notch player is that you can make the other people around you a little bit better. And he's that type of a player. But it just the situation got to the point where as my career, I didn't see anything better than what I had experienced in the past in the future. And I'm looking forward to a lot of injuries. I had some injuries the year before, and just my legs weren't there. I didn't have the quickness, and my game was predicated on being quick and be able to jump and to take control of an area around the basket and play that physical game and outmaneuver, yet be able to outrun people also. And I just couldn't do that anymore. And the guys were getting bigger and stronger and playing up above the rim all the time, and I just wasn't able to do that. And, of course, I had the experience. I knew how to pass and shoot the ball pretty well, and then play pretty smart defense and could have helped people. But I didn't see that it was an opportunity for me, or the situation wasn't there on the team that was good for a veteran. Bill Fitch took over, and he was trying to prove himself as the mentor, the first guy to come out of the Celtic from not being in the Celtic mold, from away from the Celtic family. And you know, he wanted to prove that he had control and kind of treated everybody the same, and there wasn't much of a input for a veteran, you know, on that team. And I had always been used to the situation where the veterans stayed around and played a major part in bringing the younger guys along, but that was no longer the case. So instead of me sitting around looking towards injuries and becoming a role player, I don't think I could have handled that because I had always been a major part of every game.
Yeah.
You know,
I admire your decision because at this day and age in professional sports, they make an incredible sum of money.
Yeah, that was the hardest thing to turn down.
Yeah.
It really was. That really made me think for a good 3 or 4 months, and you have to do a lot of soul searching.
Yeah. But unless you've been out there on the field, no matter what the sport is professionally, I don't think you can relate to anybody the decision, what's inside you to retire.
Right.
I went through the same thing.
Yeah.
If you just don't have the attitude to play anymore,
Yeah.
you can't manufacture it. I mean, it
That's
doesn't
right.
come in a bottle.
That's right.
You can't.
And I was telling somebody the other day, I was down at the Garden watching one of the playoff games. I said, you know, the mentality of the fan is completely different than the mentality of the player. I said, that guy, and everything a player does is with anticipation. Everything a fan does is after the fact. You know, so it's a completely different mindset, headset, when you're on the floor or on the field.
You want to know one of the, that's very well put, and that's one of the most discouraging parts of the business that I'm now in.
Yeah.
I can't be the anticipator.
Yeah.
I got to be the hindsight man.
Yeah.
And having been there, it's at times very difficult.
Yeah.
You have to remove yourself from how difficult the game is to play, whether it's golf,
Sure.
basketball, football, and just be matter of fact, yes or no, he did or he did not do it.
And the
And
big
that's
part
different.
that I miss sometimes is the excitement and the emotion
Oh, yeah.
that goes with the game.
Oh,
But
yeah.
You really don't get that in any other line of work.
You are absolutely right. There is no place in the world you would rather be other than a winning locker room, and there are a million places you'd rather be
That's right.
when you lose. But the combination of the both, it really is a terrific lifestyle.
Yeah.
There are pressures, but
But you got to be, but you know, my big thing is I wanted to be a major part of that. I didn't want to just sit back and, you know, there are certain players on each team that, you know, make the difference in the outcome of the game. And I had always been one of those guys, and it was getting to the point where I had to kind of step back and let somebody else take the limelight. And I just said, well, if I can't be a major part of it, then I just want to get out.
don't blame you. Dave Cowens sitting right here across the table from me in person on Sports Talk. We have baseball at 7:05 tonight. Mario Soto versus who? Nolan Ryan for the Houston Astros. It's not going to rain. Go ahead and go to the ball game. We'll return in just a couple of minutes. Here's great. With Dave Cowens, our guest, yes, number 18, formerly of the Boston Celtics, formerly also of the Florida State Seminoles, Florida State Seminoles, formerly also of the Newport Catholic Thoroughbreds. Thank you very much, Dave. Now the athletic director at Regis College in Boston, which is a school, a liberal arts school for 900 ladies, and he is the athletic director. Do they recruit at Regis College?
No, we offer no athletic scholarships there at this point in time. Perhaps we will be able to. Being a liberal arts school, we don't have a major in physical education either. It's art, music, history, you know, that sort of thing.
Yeah, nice.
Very good
I'm
college,
sure
well-renowned in that area.
And I'm sure it's one of those beautiful New
Yes.
England campuses that you see on picture postcards everywhere. It's
Yes.
got to be a nice surrounding and 180 degrees from the surroundings that you had for 10 years with Boston.
Sure.
And that is the floodlights, uncomfortable on airplanes, things of that nature. Who do you think is going to win? They're tied 2-2. Are you?
I'm not sure. You know, of course, I'm pulling for Boston. I'd like to see them have a parade in town, you know, and listen to all those corny speeches at the end of the year. But yeah, I'd like to see them win it and raise another flag up there. It was interesting. The other day, I guess one time on one of the telecasts, Rick Barry mentioned something about, I think when they retired my number, he said something about, look at all those, they have so many guys that they retired the numbers, and Bill Russell looked at him and says, yeah, but they got all those flags to balance it out.
That's right. They haven't really retired that many numbers now. If I'm not, there
Well,
haven't
they've
been
got
a lot
quite
of them.
Well, they've got quite a few. You figure they have Bob Cousy, and they
14.
have Bill Sharman,
21.
and they have Heinsohn. He's 15.
15, yeah.
They had Havlicek was 17.
17.
Sat Sanders was 16.
16.
Casey Jones.
24.
Sam Jones.
Wait a minute. Don't tell me.
Casey was 25, I think.
25?
And Jones was 24.
24, okay, you're right.
Sam Jones. And they got Bill Russell.
6.
And they got Easy Ed McCauley.
Oh, wait a minute. That 23?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure what his number is. Oh, Don Nelson, number 19.
19, yeah.
So they got 14,
And you,
15, 16,
18.
17, 18, 19. Then they go 21,
That's Sharman.
20, probably 20. Frank Ramsey, I don't know if he's up there. I
He
think
might have
he's
been
there,
23.
too. So they got a lot of numbers there.
Yeah, you're right.
And,
And
Walter Brown, number 1.
who's Walter Brown? I don't
Walter
know.
Brown was the original owner of the Celtics.
Yeah, one of the things that amazes me, Dave, and I'm sure a lot of real sports aficionados realize this, but in looking at the Boston Celtics roster back in the early 60s,
Yeah.
the trainer of the Boston Celtics is now the owner of the Boston Red Sox, Buddy LaRue.
Buddy LaRue, that's right.
I mean, now that's
He made his
going a
money in
long
real
way.
estate and then went into banking and control. Him and Billy Sullivan. They're in a lot of trouble. I'll be here to tell you, boy, that franchise is not doing real well.
Yeah, that's what I heard. The
No.
gentleman that owns this station also owns a station in Boston, and
Yeah.
is a very good friend of Haywood Sullivan.
Yeah.
Very good friend.
They get a
Yeah.
lot of mean press. I mean, the press in Boston is outstanding. I mean, they cover a lot of people, and a lot of reporters, and they're all quality writers, and but they can really do a number on you.
Oh yeah, I know. And they've got the quantity of numbers of
Sure.
quantity writers too,
Sure.
not just quality. They got
Right.
literally 5 or 6 that write every day on the Boston Red Sox and on the Celtics.
Well, they have the Boston Globe and they have the Boston Herald, the Herald American. Then they have all the suburban papers, which are substantial in size. They have 80 to 90,000. And,
Circulation, yeah.
Circulation. And then you have all the colleges, and there's 15,000 talk shows up there, and they're always. You get it from all angles up there.
Yeah. Did you pay particular attention to what people were saying about you as a member
I
of
was
the Boston
fortunate
Celtics?
because most of the press that I got was favorable, so I really didn't have to worry about it. My whole theory was that, look, if I go out and I bust my hump every night, and I really try to do a good job, and I don't make any excuses, how can they? They're going to say, sure, he's had a bad game here and there, but try to be consistent, do a good job, cooperate. What can they say about you?
Well, they can
and
say
you-
a lot of things
and
because
you're
they don't know
lucky-
when you're hurt.
And you're lucky to, I was lucky to be on a team that had some fine players, and we won more games than we lost.
Yeah. Do you subscribe to the theory that a lot of professional athletes have, that when your friends kind of retire off and leave the ball club, then it's difficult when in the 7th, 8th, and 9th, and 10 years of your career to make new friends with guys who have different lifestyles and
It is. Yeah, it is. Even though you don't associate or socialize with the players, at home that much, because everyone has families and various business ventures, and they're off. There's only so much time, and you spend a lot of time with guys on the road. So, when you get home, you kind of separate, and it's good. But still, you identify with these people. You have a rapport with them. You understand how they think, and that carries on to the floor. I've played with guys on teams that I really didn't care for them socially, but I respect them as an athlete and as a professional, and it was easy to play with them. So I always look at, what does a guy do on the floor? Is he a dedicated athlete? Does he go out of his way to help you? Is he a fairly humble guy, or does he want all the attention and all the limelight, or what's his deal? And if a player comes in that kind of goes against your grain, you try to work with him for a while, and if the guy's determined, and by that time he probably is, because he's been successful in his own right doing the way he's doing. So
Was
it'd be hard to change
Havlicek
him.
one of the consummate team players, the guys that you're
Oh,
talking
yeah.
about? That
Most of these guys were. I could say, Havlicek. You really just can't say anything bad about the guy. Just
what's he doing now? Is he still living in the Boston area?
Yeah, he lives not far from where I live.
Do you know what he's doing? Is he commercials and?
Well, he does a few locally. He does some selling, some advertising for a magazine called Hoop Magazines, professional sports publications. They have magazines for all the professional basketball games around the country. And so he travels a little bit there. He has a franchise in Long Island, New York for Wendy's. And he met the guy here in Columbus. And he does a lot of fishing and hunting, you know. And I told him, once you retire, John, there's a lot more danger of having animals extinct in this country and world. So he's really after it.
Do you foresee in your future, Dave, the possibility of getting back into a pressure position like that, coaching at the professional level or college in one of the big?
I can't really tell you, you know, because right now I'll be at Regis College for 3 years anyway, and after that I really don't know.
What was the reaction when you took the job at Regis College?
Well, for the faculty and you know, the alumni and the trustees of the college, it was favorable. My contact there was Sister Trace Higgins, who's the president of the school, and she's the one who hired me. And so
did you apply for the job, or did they solicit your?
They kind of solicited me, you know, because I have a working relationship with them anyway, and I spent some time at Regis College. And so a couple of years ago we talked about this, when the building, you know, and the fundraising and everything was being formulated for this new sports facility.
You got to admire that sister. I mean, most people have said, ask Dave Cowens to be our athletic director? Why, that's crazy.
Yeah.
But she had the guts to ask, and you said
sure.
yes.
Yeah.
Was there any hesitation on your part?
Oh, yeah. You know, we talked about it, and I said, well, I don't think I want to do it. And then once I got out of basketball and thought about it for a while, I think I told her that I would take the job. It was around middle of February.
And you've been on the job since then?
Yes.
And you have a 3-year contract?
Well, you know.
You hope?
Yeah, we really haven't
arrangement,
sat down.
agreement, whatever.
Right. I'm just doing the work now, and we'll worry about it later.
Yeah, yeah. You still haven't given me the prediction. Houston, Boston, in the.
I don't know what to tell you. I was surprised the other day. I thought Boston was going to win the game. Houston looked tired. Their offense wasn't clicking, and you know, it seemed like Boston picked up. You know, the momentum picked up in their favor, and they went to the line a few times, and they couldn't capitalize on their foul shots. They missed 4 out of 8. So instead of being behind 2 points at a certain time in the game, they were behind 6. And they threw the ball away 2 or 3 times in a row, and you know, allowed the other team to get too many second shots, and didn't look like they went about the business of. Moses Malone had 4 or 5 fouls, and I think he had 4 fouls. And what I was thinking is that, why don't you just bring the ball down? Don't be in a hurry. Just bring it down, dump it inside, and go to the basket. The guys are going to foul you. You're going to miss an easy shot, or you're going to make one. But that's the percentages right there in that situation. And then hopefully you can get some fast break buckets, you know, when the other team's at a disadvantage.
But they go back to Boston, if I'm not mistaken. So,
yeah. They're in Boston tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night.
And
then they go back to Houston for the next night?
They go back there. I'm not sure when. Probably Friday.
Do they go 2-2 and then 1-1-1?
2-2, and then now they're in Boston. They're back Friday in Houston probably, and then Sunday in Boston again.
If they need to.
I'd like to see them winning in Boston because they haven't won a championship there since 1966 or before, I think.
They always have won it
on the road. Yeah. I won't be able to be there on Tuesday. I'm down here going to a fundraiser for my dad.
A fundraiser for your dad?
I
understand your father's a politician.
He is. He's a pretty good one.
Pretty good one? Running for. Would you buy used cars from this man? What is his name? Well, wait a minute. I think we can say what's his name?
His name's Jack Cowens.
Jack Cowens, and he lives over there across the river.
That's right.
And he's running for some office, and you're here for a fundraiser, and we better stop there, or whoever's running against the guy from over there in Northern Kentucky is going to be on the program tomorrow night. You see?
That's right.
Who was the best player that you played against in the 10 years that you played in the NBA?
I guess over the long haul, I'd have to say Jabbar would be, you know, he's the guy that has probably dominated the league more than any other player over the last 10 or 12 years. Of course, he's been elected the most valuable player, I guess, probably 4 or 5 times, and he's the man on on any team that he's played on, whether it be Milwaukee or Los Angeles. So much of their offense was generated towards him, and it put a lot of pressure on me to guard a guy. I remember when I first came in the league, he scored 40, 50 points on me every time we played against him. Yeah, and
That's discouraging.
Yeah, after a while you can only take so many dunks in your face. But then we made a team adjustment.
Team adjustment.
And so we had like 5 guys climbing all over him. And
But you don't allow zones.
We had to pass it.
Yeah.
He had to pass the ball.
Who was the best player that you ever saw play the game when you were on the floor at the same time?
Havlicek continually amazed me over the course of his career and the times that I played against him. You know, when we needed the big shot, when we had to go to somebody to make a pressure shot, we ran the play for him and then JoJo White, you know.
JoJo White, unbelievable shooter.
Yeah, nice shooter, like a Sam Jones. People tell me that Sam Jones was better. Sam was more of a pure shooter, and you know, Sam perfected the bank shot. But they both had different styles. They even looked alike a little bit, you know, Sam and JoJo. But John
Sam was a little heavier, wasn't he?
I don't know. JoJo's a pretty stocky fella. I think Sam might have been a little taller, but they were both similar type players. Offensive, not so much defensive, but they were no slouch on defense.
Yeah, JoJo was just. He was like Jello out there, man. He ran down the floor. Yeah, he ran down the floor, and you swear his feet never hit the ground. Yeah, it was just amazing.
Real smooth.
How about the most underrated player, the guy that always gave you the trouble, that got the least amount of press in your estimation? Was there anybody? Or maybe somebody you played with? I always thought Paul Silas was an outstanding basketball player.
Outstanding.
That not until the last year in Seattle did he really start getting some press.
Yeah. Well, you know, as far as endurance was concerned, and he played a number. He only played 13 less games than Havlicek. Havlicek played the most that anybody's ever played, and I think Silas played 15 or 16 seasons as well as Havlicek. And of course, Paul had the duty of rocking them and socking them underneath the boards with everybody, and he was a banger and had a definite knack for knowing where the ball was. A great offensive rebounder, could keep it alive, and I owe a lot of my success as a player, and the Celtics do as a team, to Paul Silas, because he came to the team in 1972-73. I had already been with the team 2 years, and you know, we were doing well, but when he came, that just finished our team off, and that was the year when we only lost 14 games.
Yeah, and the amazing thing about Paul Silas, and correct me if I'm wrong, he couldn't jump.
Not a real good jumper.
He never was a good jumper.
He was deceptive. He had great timing, but he was a physical player. You know, he'd bump you, and he had a lot of cute moves around the basket. You know, he'd decoy people, and he'd run them off picks and knock them off balance, and he pretty clever player, kind of like Don Nelson in his own right.
Yeah, with his set shot from the outside.
Yeah.
Dave Cowens, formerly of the Boston Celtics, is our guest. We'll take this break, come back with several phone calls here on Sports Talk. Baseball at 7:05. Soto versus Nolan Ryan, right down there at Riverfront. Dave Cowens, our guest here on Sports Talk, formerly the Boston Celtics, and well known to you people over there on just the other side of the bridge in Newport, Kentucky. We'll take some phone calls here. We don't have a lot of time, but we do have local lines open at 749-3420. But we have plenty of people to talk to. And until then, thanks for waiting. You're on Sports Talk with Dave Cowens.
Hello, Bob.
Good evening. How are you, sir?
Great. This is Steve from Delphus. I won't say I'm a first-time caller, but this is the first time I've ever gotten through. And I was really thrilled because I'm really a Celtic fan, and I really thought this was going to be a bonus tonight if I could get a chance to ask Dave a question.
Well, you got it.
Okay. Dave, first of all, I want to know how close you are to the Celtics as far as, I'm sure you've been watching the ball games, but do they consult you or ask your opinion on anything?
No, I'm afraid not. They're doing a good job without any input from me.
I'm getting a little bit anxious here with the way the Celtics been playing. Just from what you watched, and see if you agree with this at all, I think they've got to do something to get Larry Bird the ball moving to the basket. he seems, the only weakness I've seen that this guy has is when he's got a guy as quick as this Robert Reed on him, he has trouble putting the ball on the floor.
Yeah.
And I thought maybe if they could get him cutting to the basket and get him going offensively, that could maybe be the key to getting this thing wrapped up.
Larry works real well in a wide open game, and with Houston slowing the ball down, that really limits the number of times that Larry Bird is going to be able to work in a wide open field or court. So I think that in itself is going to limit his output as far as the offense is concerned. But Larry can hurt you in a number of different ways. He's a good rebounder, and I'd like to see him put it up a little bit more,
Dave, if I may make a comment on Larry Bird, I knew he was an outstanding basketball player and a great shooter. I had no idea what good hands he had.
Yeah.
And I think that's very, very important for any athlete. And he can catch the ball extremely well and control the ball with his fingertips like very few people there are in the game today.
Good size hands and a nice spread, finger spread, which is very important. Of course, Dr. J, he has probably the longest fingers and span, and that's why he's able to do all those unbelievable plays and scoops but Larry's not quite that gifted as far as his hands are concerned, but he does have big hands and handles the ball very well.
Yeah. Thanks for your phone call, caller. We got to move on. There are a lot of people out here who want to talk to Dave Cowens, and thanks for waiting. It's your turn on Sports Talk.
Hello, Bob.
Good evening.
This is Dan from Louisville.
Hello, Dan.
And I'd like to ask Dave, are you going to have a book written, put out about your life story in the basketball?
I doubt it. I doubt it very. That'd probably be the thinnest book ever printed.
How about just a comic strip or something? or
books, I don't know.
A movie. You're not going to write a book.
Tell you what, anybody who's a Celtics fan ought to write to Billy Sullivan. I think that's a guy's name. He put out a pictorial history of the Boston Celtics that is just an amazing work. They offered it to a lot of the season ticket holders this year, and somebody should, if you're really interested, you should write up to Boston to get that book because it's a beauty.
Are the plays the same as when you were playing, or is it just a matter of execution when you run them that you watch on TV?
Well, no, the plays that Bill Fitch incorporates now, there's hardly any of the plays that we used when I was playing with the team a few years ago.
And if you don't have to answer this question if you don't want to, but what was I remember they used to put a guy named Schroeder in at Buffalo. What was he, just a hack man or something?
What was his name?
Schroeder.
It wasn't Schroeder. It was Dale Schluter.
Schluter.
Oh, Schluter,
Dale
yeah.
Schluter. Yeah, he ran around with a lot of teams and didn't have a lot of talent. He could break away and have a big game rebounding sometimes, but mostly he was in there to bang and aggravate. He was an aggravating player, He paid for that with a few guys,
Listen, my friend, I got to move on. We got a lot of people that want to talk to Dave. Thanks for calling. All right, bye-bye. Okay. Good evening. Thank you for waiting. It's your turn on Sports Talk with Dave Cowens.
Good evening, Bob.
Whatever. Yes, go ahead.
Okay, Dave, two short questions.
Okay.
What's your opinion of the hardship rule as it stands now for college players?
Oh, I always think that if a college player is capable of playing professional basketball and, and that's what he wants to do, then he ought to do it. He ought to enter the draft. And, people can say, what about the loyalty to the team and all that stuff? But, you're going to college to try to get some credentials that's going to qualify you to have a good job when you get out. And, why pass up a lot of money playing basketball and risk the injury? And as far as the loyalty is concerned, hey, you got a coach that recruits you. He says he's going to be with you X amount of years, and they pay him, $80,000. And if he gets an offer of somebody paying him $200,000, you best believe he'll be packing his bags.
Larry Brown, UCLA.
Okay, Dave, are you surprised Tom Heinsohn hasn't got back into coaching?
No, I'm not surprised. I don't think he would any place other than with the Boston Celtics. He could, though. He's a very energetic man and very talented, capable fella.
One more question, Dave. Is there a black-white quota in basketball?
No quotas, no.
Thanks for your phone call. Interesting question. I wonder why he would bring that up. Good evening. Thank you for waiting. You're on Sports Talk with Dave Cowens.
Good evening, Bob. This is Bob from Independence.
Hi, Bob.
Former former NC grad, graduated a year ahead of Dave's younger brother Gary, played ball against him.
Oh, yeah.
Got a question for Dave. My brother-in-law graduated 4 years ahead of me at NC and saw Dave play in high school. And he tells me that the year Dave, I don't know if it was a junior or senior, it's one of the best high school basketball teams he's ever seen put together. I was wondering who the other 4 members were. I believe Jim Nicoletta was one of them.
No, let's see, and probably it was our senior year because we were 29-3 that year, I believe. And you had Terry Samphus was a guard, and Mike Lugan was a guard. Jim Minchell was a forward, and Tim Barrow was a forward. We had a guy, Mike Rambler. He's about 6'10". He was a backup center. A guy named Jim Natixburn was a power forward. He was a pretty good player himself. Once I left, I think he played a year or two after I left. And we had Joe Hummel, and all of these guys. There were about 8 seniors that year, and all of them got scholarships someplace to go to school. So it was a pretty good team, and we were favored really to win the state tournament. It was either us or Shelby County or Louisville Central that year, and we got blown out in the first game by Glasgow. I think they won the state tournament the next year, but they played over their heads that first game downstate. We whipped everybody up in this region by about 30 points.
How did you happen to be overlooked by the University of Kentucky?
I wasn't, but they had already signed about 13 guys once they got to me. So I only averaged 13 points a game my senior year in high school.
How tall were you in high school?
6'6".
And you
played about 190.
Is that right? And then grew to 6'6".
Couldn't shoot very well. I really acquired some offensive skills when I was in college, and then used them more so when I was in the pros.
Yeah, interesting.
One other quick question. Was he actually on the swimming team and did not play basketball till he was a junior?
My sophomore year, I was on the swimming team. I played high school basketball my junior and senior year only.
Did you ever play organized ball up to that point?
Sure, little league in grade school, and played in an industrial league one year in high school as opposed to organized.
And then they found out about you. Thanks for your phone call. Got to move on. What line did you say, Douglas? Okay. Good evening. Thank you for waiting. You're on Sports Talk with Dave Cowens.
Yeah, hi, Bob. This is Rich from Loveland.
Hello, Rich.
How you doing?
Fine, thank you.
Good. I wanted to ask Dave who he thought was going to win this championship series. You asked him a couple of times, and he kind of avoided it a little bit.
Hey, he's a politician as good as his own
man. The reason I
man.
asked, they don't seem to be playing with the same degree of intensity as they did against Philadelphia.
Well, they've had a natural letdown, after the Philadelphia series. They just squeaked by the first game in Boston and lost the next one by 2, and then they blew them out down in Houston and played terribly the next day. You can analyze it all you want. It's a matter, they better just go out and take it, otherwise they may end up second fiddle.
So
the
you picking
Houston
Boston?
club is confident. I got to pick Boston. I think they're the better team.
Yeah.
I think the Houston team, when you sit down and analyze player by player down the bench, they got to admit it too.
Yeah.
But emotionally they're not going in. They believe in one another, which means a lot.
Yeah. When you mentioned too the possible letdown that Boston might have after playing Philadelphia so tough, does it not also help to have a letdown after you've beaten that team 14 straight times?
Sure.
During the regular season.
There was an overconfidence factor there for sure.
Dave, we are totally out of time. Thanks for your phone call, caller. We do appreciate it. And that's one of the problems with these hour programs. We just don't have time to get anything. But best of luck on the rubber chicken circuit for the old man. Pleasure to see you once again here in Cincinnati. Anytime you're around, stop by.
I appreciate being on. Thanks.
And the address once again, Regis College in, where is it?
Weston, Mass.
Weston, Massachusetts. Athletic Director Dave Cowens. Thanks again, Dave.
Okay.